I'm Bob McCauley, and one of the questions that we get quite often at Superwire is, who is Superwire? What is Superwire? So to answer that question, I brought in the chairman of Superwire Incorporated and also the chairman of Superwire Telecom, Jim Truher. And Jim, can you provide a little background for just who is Superwire? Who is Superwire Telecom?
And Superwire Telecom was formed in 2004 after we got into the process of negotiating with the Golden Rain Foundation to provide the triple play services at Leisure World in Seal Beach. We formed Superwire Inc. about 10 years ago, 1998, I guess, was when we formed it for the purpose of providing triple play services to everybody we could find to take it. That was kind of we were in the early stages of doing that, and so we've reached this point now where at Leisure World we're providing those services using the resources of Time Warner.
So pretty much Superwire Telecom is focused primarily on Leisure World.
Only
Leisure World.
Only Leisure World. Superwire Telecom is committed to provide services only at Leisure World Seal Beach.
Okay, can you touch a little bit, Jim, on just how did you get in this business?
Well, that was a long time ago. I actually started out in the telephone business as a summer hire when I was in college, about 57 years ago. And
So you've had a little experience.
I've been in the telecom business all those years, plus prior to that my dad worked for AT&T, and I went to work, I guess, followed in his shoes a long time ago. So my first experience was actually as a child, riding on cat trains, caterpillars that hooked together and they plowed cable in the ground up in the Northwest.
Wow. Okay, and when you were with AT&T at one time.
Oh yes, AT&T for 26 years.
And how many people did you have working for you when you were there?
Well, it varied over the years from a few as maybe 25 to as high as 6,000 to 7,000.
Right.
For last responsibility I had at the Bell System was network operations and engineering for Western U.S. that we provided all the long distance service and wireless services and radio and television broadcast services in this part of the United States.
And you also, when you left AT&T, you built your own company.
Yes, actually started a couple different companies. First one was in 1980-81, a company called Polaris in Telecom, where we did what we're doing at Leisure World in office buildings. And I sold that company many years ago to some real estate developers. Started a second company called Selectel that was in a similar kind of business, and we provided all the telephone services for the United States Navy worldwide. They had what they called Navy lodges, which were about 50 hotels in a number of countries. I don't know, 15 different countries, I guess. We provided those services for a number of years, and that company was sold to a public company back in the 80s.
Yeah, it's interesting, Jim, that when we've made trips to different companies and talked to different vendors, and even at Leisure World itself, how often we've run into people that knew you and worked for you. You know, we met somebody the other day that works in security, and he says, "Isn't that Jim Truher? I used to work for him way back in those days." And I guess the other thing, Jim, is we have an interesting situation at Leisure World Seal Beach. The type of service we give, the fact that we have this office here, where we have the ladies that live, the employees at Superwire in this building live at Leisure World. They understand Leisure World, and that was specifically along the lines of sort of the things that you wanted to formulate when we first came into this. What kind of vision, what caused that, what triggered that vision to have a service like this at Leisure World?
Well, that's a long story. I guess the genesis of it would have been in the 1960s. And I was working at AT&T headquarters, and myself and some other fellows came up with an idea of expanding telecommunications to a more complete kind of service, set of services that would include everything from basic telephone all the way up to television. And AT&T headquarters didn't think that was a very good idea for some reason, and so I thought it was a good idea. And in the trying to remember what years it was, but I think it was sometime in the late 60s. I was chief engineer for Pacific Bell for a while, and had responsibility here in Southern California, and was able to, on my own undertaking, build a cable system in Altadena, California. That was prior to the time when AT&T was ruled out of, couldn't be in the cable business. But I had built that system. About the time we got it finished, that ruling came out, so we were required to sell it. But so I guess that's where it started, back in those days. And then I just kind of had it in my mind that that's what we ought to do for a long, long time.
And you felt very strong about the fact that we could provide reasonable service to a senior community like Leisure World.
Oh yes, one of the main things in my lifetime has been to try to keep a balance between the quality of the service you provide, the price you pay for it, and the way you treat the people providing it, or your employees. So we used to call it a three-legged stool, but I think industry has lost that perspective in recent years.
Yeah, it's interesting that I remember in your office one day I saw a book that you had written back at AT&T, which basically described services just about like we're providing right now. But that was many, many years ago, and evidently your company you were with at that time decided not to go off in that angle.
Well, that was over 40 years ago.
Wow. So this has been sort of a fulfillment of your dream.
Well, I guess it is.
Wow.
I hadn't thought of it quite that way, but just trying to do the right thing all these years. Main thing is to keep the prices down, keep the quality of service high, and make it an interesting place to work.
Okay, well, this won't be the last time we interview you. We want to track the progress of the company, and we want you to come back and give us some other insights into what you're thinking and what your view of, because what we do in Superwire Telecom is going to be guided by your vision.
Well, thank you. I hope it's a good one.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right,
Okay.
Bob.
Thank